Hello and welcome. I'm Ijoma Onyaso. Tonight, Sultan of Sokoto asks politicians to stop deceptive campaigns and be realistic about their promises to Nigerians. ECOWAS Parliament calls for increased support for Nigeria to ensure successful polls next month. Federal government welcomes plan by AU to send 7,500 troops to help tackle Boko Haram, says more towns have been recaptured by the military. And Ukraine rebel commander announces plan to increase number of fighters to 100,000.
And on business news tonight, CBN disburses 213 billion naira Nigerian electricity market stabilization fund to generate distribution and to companies.
And on sports news, it's all about transfer deadline day. Nigerian striker Yakuba Yegbene returns to England to join Reading, while Andre Schürrle completes Wolfsburg move.
The Sultan of Sokoto, His Eminence Sir Abubakar III, today challenged the political class not to make promises that they will not keep after the election. The Sultan, who addressed the media alongside the Catholic Archbishop of Abuja, John Cardinal Onayekon, said it's deceitful for politicians to tell their followers about things that are not achievable, only to win the election and forget their promises. On his part, Cardinal Onayekon said unless the government takes drastic action, the growing number of internally displaced persons in the northeast, as well as the suburbs of Abuja, will become a huge problem to manage.
In the run-up to the February 14 general elections, Nigerians have witnessed different kinds of political advertisements in the media. The vast majority of these political advertisements are attacks on personalities in a bid by political parties to win the hearts of the electorates. In all of these, religious bodies have demanded that politicians do not mislead the electorates.
This is the time you all come to us with your begging balls, begging us to vote for you. After the votes, we will not see any of you again. You are back to your state houses, locked up where we can't even reach you. That's the problem of the common man.
At this news conference by the Interfaith Initiative for Peace, the Catholic Archbishop of Abuja also raised concern over the rights of internally displaced persons.
This time around, we are going to have an election in Nigeria where a whole section of our nation will be disenfranchised. Not only in the north, though, there are people who ran away from Adama to stay with their friends and their brothers in Lagos and in Port Harcourt. I do believe that it's not too late for INEC to put on its thinking cap and make sure that these people are not disenfranchised simply on technical basis that they are not in the place in which they were registered.
On the challenge of security, the Sultan urged INEC to conduct the elections with the fear of God.
We must call on politicians who control their party followers, because they do the control. They pay them and they take them to various places. So they must ensure they obey the rules of the game.
Well, less than 2 weeks to this keenly contested elections, and feverish calls continues for greater transparency and accountability by all the parties involved. Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Now, the ECOWAS Parliament has passed a resolution to enlist international support for peaceful and violence-free elections here in Nigeria. The resolution, reached at the Parliament's first ordinary session for 2015, is as a result of the interest and concern for the region for peace and stability in Nigeria, which has the most influence in the Parliament and the highest number of seats. The Speaker of the Parliament and Nigeria's Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu told members of Parliament that efforts are being made to ensure that the election is not only hitch-free but peaceful.
The 2015 First Ordinary Session of the ECOWAS Parliament in Abuja had one major agenda: to consider the situation on the enhancement of powers of the Parliament, Supplementary Act for which was adopted at a previous ordinary session of the ECOWAS heads of state and government.
The primary thrust of this extraordinary session is to formally brief you on the adoption of the Supplementary Act on the enhancement of powers of the ECOWAS Parliament, and for us to discuss the way forward towards strengthening the Parliament to effectively handle the new roles bestowed on it by the Act. The Supplementary Act is for the deepening and strengthening of regional governance, democracy, accelerated integration, peace and development in the third sub-region.
But also of importance to the Parliament is the upcoming elections in Nigeria, a country which is a major player and a strong member, occupying 35 out of the 115 seats of the ECOWAS Parliament.
And aware of the fact that Nigeria is the largest economy in the region and the continent as a whole, aware of the recent security challenges occasioned by the terrorist group Boko Haram, particularly in the northeast of the country, convinced of the implication of instability in the Federal Republic of Nigeria on the rest of the ECOWAS community, calls for peace before, during, and after the holding of the election. 3. Urges all political parties to avoid insightful and acrimonious campaigns. Urges the international community to support all initiatives that will lead to free and peaceful elections in the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
It is a time of election because the election goes a lot for the sub-region. We are indeed happy that we are getting support from ECOWAS, from our global partners, and from the community of nations.
The resolution by the Parliament to ensure international support towards a peaceful and free elections in Nigeria is hinged upon its agreement that peace in Nigeria is vital to peace in the region. Omelogo Nadi, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the former military head of state, General Abdulsalami Abubakar, has also added his voice to the call for Nigerians to shun any form of violence over the forthcoming elections. Speaking during a meeting with service chiefs, General Abubakar, who is the head of the National Peace Committee, said that Nigerians would bear the consequences of any violence that trails the elections. The National Peace Committee was set up after the Abuja Peace Accord was signed by the leading presidential candidates ahead of the elections.
If there is no peace, there is no country. We must have peace so that every Nigerian can go about finding its legitimate living. And now when we are talking of electoral violence, you will find out that people give blames on the politicians. But it is not the politicians. Nigerians are the people who inflict these violence. So we are, as a committee, going to appeal to all Nigerians to eschew violence. If we inflict violence on ourselves, we destroy property, we must come back and to rebuild all this damage is being done. And the fund to be used to repair this could have been put in a better use.
Well, as some speak on the need for peaceful polls, others are calling on the Independent National Electoral Commission to postpone the general elections. Speakers at a symposium on the National Conference and the 2015 general elections organized by the Macaulay Center for the Advancement of Democracy gave various reasons on the need to postpone the elections. While some of the participants want the nation to resolve the issue of what they called a faulty constitution before the elections are held, others say INEC is not prepared. Our correspondent Amaka Okafor reports.
This event was meant to discuss the National Conference and its effect on the 2015 general elections. However, most of the speakers were concerned with the conduct of the elections, especially the preparedness of the Independent National Electoral Commission. While some advocated a postponement of the polls, others disagreed. A third group wants INEC to examine its level of preparedness vis-à-vis the effect it would have on the credibility of the polls.
I do not want us to sacrifice, safety and future for speed. My take on it, therefore, is that INEC should look at these issues critically in terms of the moral burden that will be cast on it if the election goes ahead or it does not go ahead, in terms of the integrity of the electoral process, if it goes ahead or it does not go ahead.
Put the election around March, finish the process in April, let Nigerians vote, then you would have given them the opportunity to exercise their franchise. Not when you have not given me my PVC, you are calculating that in Ekiti, certain percentage did not vote. In Ondo, certain percentage did not vote. They got their PVC and they refused to vote. It's of choice.
Others, however, want the election to be shelved indefinitely until the challenges surrounding the 1999 Constitution are addressed.
It makes more rational sense and can only advance the greatest collective good of our various peoples to, first of all, complete the redesign of our pivotal federal constitution, including its consequential state constitutions, upon which everything else is erected.
Speaking on the security challenges in the country as it relates to the election, a retired military officer makes a case for Nigeria to adopt the total defense mechanism to confront the issue. He, however, urged the military not to capitalize on the insecurity in the country to return to military rule, as it may lead to a crisis.
This is a message to the military. If you jump in and try to take over, they take advantage, I can assure you, you will not have a united army to use. So what will happen? You will then have what will mean instability.
These are no doubt strong opinions, but whether they would have any effect on the 2015 general elections scheduled to begin next week remains to be seen. Amaka Okafor, Channels Television News.
Now, while the calls for the postponement of the elections continues, the Independent National Electoral Commission has insisted that there is no going back on the February the 14th date fixed for the commencement of the polls. The Chief Press Secretary to the INEC Chairman, Mr. Kayode Idowu, told Channels Television that the Commission is doing everything possible to hold the hitch-free exercise. Mr. Idowu explained that the Commission has extended the deadline for the collection of PVCs and the process is on course. In part two, after the break, hoodlums attack 3 court buildings in Rivers State. That's in a moment. Do stay with us.